Well, good afternoon, everybody. Even if you're in California, it would be considered afternoon, I think. I got 1 o'clock Mountain Central Time, 2 Central, or 3 Eastern. Happy to have you aboard. We're looking at QuickBooks Online tools for tax accountants, and my name's Woody Adams. I'll be your host for the presentation. Before I just do a quick slide on me, go through a few slides, then we'll mostly be in product, and it will go to the top of the hour, so it should go all the way till 4 Eastern. Maybe a little early. Administratively, though, in the GoToWebinar, you should be able to see my screen now. I am doing a recording. And there is a questions box you'll find where you can ask me a question. So I do try to pause throughout the presentation to answer questions. So by all means, ask them there. As well, I uploaded the PowerPoint deck into the handout section of GoToWebinar because there's a bunch of links in there and resources that might be really helpful for you or your client or other people in the firm, if you will. So I don't see any issues, so I'm going to move on here. Got a lot to cover today. This is me, longtime ProAdvisor, been with Intuit since '04. I'm certified in QBOA, though I do support both platforms, and I install desktop and everything too. I don't really get certified in desktop anymore. And also weekly with Stacy Kildall, I think it's now bi-weekly, we do the QBO show. You can find out more about that at radiofreeqb.com. So as far as tools for tax accountants, last year we did this webinar series. So it's similar this year, just a few extra tools I'm gonna cover and functionality. And I am going to show the integration with ProConnect Tax Online, or at least exporting a TrialBalance report, so that you can bring it into ProSeries or Lacert, or other tax software you might be using. But what are the great tools to clean up stuff? But I did ask a few of my friends who support QBO clients and prepare taxes, and so why they prefer QBO to desktop. And it's mostly about touching the file more often throughout the year so that when you go to do the tax return, there's less cleanup, there's less surprises, if you will. So I'm just going to read a few quotes, and it was pretty much thematic of the, half a dozen people I interviewed. Irrespective of assuming books are clean, if you are using QBO, you'll know if the books are clean well in advance to performing the return, where in desktop it's more common to have to clean up garbage because you're just getting a file transfer. You might only be looking at it once a year, right? So if you're able to log in just quickly, that's more advantageous than asking a client for an accountant's copy file or a backup or portable. Now, if you're hosting, then, that's kind of the same difference, really, right? You can still log into their file, although I'd argue that hosting's more expensive and it can be sluggish. In desktop, you're more likely to see errors to fix as you've not been in the file throughout the year, right? Same kind of thing. I'm more comfortable setting a closing date without a password because you can do a closing date and password in QBO. And I'll show you that too. It's one of the settings we go through. But I can do it without a password as I'm going to see the changes right from the client dashboard in QBOA. So we surface up data as well there. Changes to closed books, changes to reconciled transactions, unaccepted transactions. We'll look at that. And then working together with clients throughout the year, bank feeds reconciling faster. I get the data sooner. Data's more up to date. Entering transactions daily based on bank feeds, more on top of the books, etc. And reports, I would argue, too, have a chance to be more up to date than in desktop, particularly if your clients are on the go and they're using the QuickBooks app on their phone, right, or on the tablet. They can take a picture of an expense, and it attaches the receipt, creates an expense in QBO with the receipt attached, that kind of thing. All right, a couple slides on numbers, aligning where QBO is, and then we'll dive into product. So 78% of all small businesses will have moved to online by 2020. And then here's, as of the end of Q1, fiscal year 18, Intuit results, right? 2.55 million subscribers. Obviously desktop still has 3 million, but we're looking, we should be able to reach that in the next fiscal year. But we're looking at 2.55 million worldwide subscribers, and most are in the U.S., right? 550K, so 500,000 outside the U.S., but basically we're talking about U.S. subs. And so the only reason why I show those numbers is that even if you're not a fan of QuickBooks Online, you prefer desktop, just get some staff in the firm, that are adept at the program. Get them certified in QBO, and that way, you have that revenue stream too, because you're going to get the same TrialBalance report. All right, and then other benefits of being on the cloud, these are pretty obvious, but improve collaboration with your client, but also with your staff. I'm going to show that first, the team page, when we get into QBOA next. As long as you have a high-speed internet connection, you can access it anywhere. Again, I do a lot of stuff on the phone, so though it doesn't have the same feature set, it is nice to be able to enter transactions on the phone, because I'm in the data file too. It's not like it sends something, it's just I'm in it, just from a different device, right? No need to transfer data files. Probably my favorite reason for looking at QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Online Accountant from an accountant's perspective, particularly if you're used to the limitations in the accountant's copy process. And then, of course, backups and portables, you don't want to send that back to overwrite their file. So, okay, here's what we're going to look at in product demo. We're going to start out in QuickBooks Online Accountant. That is, your kind of launching pad, and where you and the staff and the firm kind of work off the same list. Client dashboard, team involvement, the work feature. So there is some project tracking and task management you can do now within QBOA, and there's a file share. So I want to show that. We'll go over. I'll be using Google Chrome, but I also like Firefox a lot too, but some navigation tips and tricks, like how you get 2 windows or more open, things like that, so you don't have to keep clicking the back button. That should help during tax time. Because if you're really used to desktop, it's going to feel a lot slower if you're just on a report and then you back button out and you lose your report. So I'm going to show you how you can have many windows up. It's called tab browsing. And then we'll go through some specific accountant tools in the accountant toolbox that you see there, and we'll be looking at reporting to and exporting to Excel or PDF, etc. And then at the end, I'll be in the TrialBalance tool, kind of do a quick overview of that, and then show the integration with ProConnect Tax Online. And then after that, I'll come back and do a 5 minutes in bank feeds, just to make sure you're aware of like the best way of getting the data in. When your client's connected to the credit card or the checking account. Okay. And then we'll come back to this stuff. So remember to download the PowerPoint because there's a lot of resource links there. So I'm going to jump into my QBOA. Right? Got the green bar across the top. I have clients, team, ProAdvisor, work, and apps. We're just going to focus on these 4 here. Here are my list of QBO clients. Right? The little QB icon in the status column, when you hover over it, that'll show you the level of QuickBooks they're using. And yes, you can support your self-employed clients. We have an online self-employed product. It's really not part of QBO. It's kind of its own thing, but that's for your clients that don't need transactions. It's just really a bank feed, projecting taxes, mileage tracking. So pretty cool, though, for your clients that are, 1099, Schedule C clients. Schedule C categories. Doesn't have a chart of accounts like QBO does, but still self-employed. You can create the sub from here as well as support them. You might have some of those clients. You can support Simple Start clients in here, Essentials Plus, etc. We'll be basically working in this file, but the QB icon is a quick way to get into a client file, or you just click the drop-down, right, the client switcher, as you know. And then if you click into the client, we're going to surface up some data about that client. Yes, you can take notes for only you and the staff to see. We'll go over the team page next, but bookkeeping information, kind of like the old accountant home. When was an account last reconciled? What's the current balance? Anything in blue, you can just drill into the file. Right? So changes to reconciled transactions, changes to reconciled. Right? So there's that stuff I need to look at. Unaccepted transactions, these are transactions downloaded for the bank feed. I should review that before I do the return, right? Etc. So we'll just pretend that we're like past 12/31. And then, we'll go over shared documents, some tax information again, because I have sent these balances from this file over to ProConnect Tax Online. We're going to do that towards the end today. But the client dashboard, you and your staff can see it. Now, if you're bringing in staff for just like 4 months of the year and you don't want them to be able to add a client, create a QBO subscription, or add a team member or something like that, you can restrict your staff from what they do within QuickBooks Online Accountant. Now, we're not in the client's QBO file yet. We're just talking about the firm QBOA. Let's go over to the team page under your practice. Here are all my staff. And for instance, Valerie has full access. So I usually check up all the clients for her, partner of mine. So, she pretty much can do what I can do, except she can't delete me or she can't add third-party apps to the subscription. However, Ray is basic access. Only bring her in for 4 months of the year. Administratively, because I'm inviting everybody to their own email, right? We shouldn't be ghosting on just one person's email, and certainly shouldn't be going in as the client, because you're going to miss out on all these tools I'm about to show you. But under firm administration and books, Ray cannot see any firm info, can't see the firm credit card, can't add clients to wholesale billing, because the firm, yes, you can pay through QBOA for the client subscription. That's 50% off for life of the sub. Some of you are here today that you probably already purchased the 5 for 25, so you put that under wholesale billing. She also, since we give firms a free QuickBooks Online Plus file called Your Books, she cannot access that either. I don't want her to see payroll in there, what we're charging our clients or something like that. And then she can't add any new subscriptions. So you can restrict Ray, for example, administratively to pretty much bare bones within QBOA. And when she logs in, all she really sees is the list of clients that I check off for her to work on. Doesn't have to be all 60, right, or 40. I think she has access to like 10. So, and I'm actually in as Ray in another Chrome user here, and I'll explain that when we get into a client file, like, well, why Chrome is advantageous. But Firefox, great too, or Internet Explorer 11 or Safari even. But notice like Ray's view versus mine. Mine's behind and hers is up front. We're in the same QBOA, Clean Books LLC, but Ray just has 10 clients, and anybody will have access to ProAdvisor and Work if you've invited them as a team member. But she doesn't have the Your Books file, she doesn't have team, and she doesn't have the ability to add a client. Right? So now, for these 10 clients, she is a company admin on these books. She can do pretty much anything in these 10 client files, but nothing administratively, right? So think of that for tax staff bringing in for like 4 months of the year. Now, we want Ray to click on ProAdvisor. I want her to become adept at the program. If she has the time, right? She can come in and go through the optional QBO training or take the exam. It's about 12 different modules, and we will give her CPE credit for going through the modules themselves. Or she can just click take the exam if she just wants to see. And then she can even get advanced certified, right? She can even, if she's a desktop ProAdvisor, which she's not, but if she was, she could connect her accounts, And you can do that too, by the way. Some of you probably are a ProAdvisor and you get QuickBooks Accountant Edition every year, and maybe even Enterprise, depending on what you pay, right? The desktop is a paid thing, $349 or $549, excuse me, depending on whether you need Enterprise or not. But Ray can put in her customer account number we have in file here, or her QuickBooks Account Edition license number, both, and connect the accounts and download her software. But Ray's not desktop ProAdvisor. She's just QBO, right? So being a part of a team QBOA, a firm QuickBooks Online accountant, each team member will have the ability to advance their education within QuickBooks Online. So we'll give them the ProAdvisor tab. We'll come back to Work because she will see some projects I've assigned to her. And she'll just see the tasks or projects or share requests for files for clients that she has access to and no others. But I just wanted to make sure we knew that you can restrict your staff administratively, from what they do within QBOA, so they can just work on the clients that you want her or him to work on. Right? So, all right. ProAdvisor, yes. Again, we've already been in there, but just wanted to quickly mention that you can connect with the desktop, and also if once you get certified, you can go and set up your profile to track leads and profile views and things like that, right? Until you can publish it on the Find a ProAdvisor site. We get 40,000 hits a month. Some of those might become tax clients, some might become bookkeeping clients. Either way, every team member will have the ability to get certified in QBO and be out on the Find a ProAdvisor site. So some good marketing for the firm. Finally, we'll look at Work. This is where I can see any projects or tasks that I've assigned to my staff. If you're already using engagement tracking software, this is not meant to replace it, but it's going to make it more and more robust as we go along. We're putting a lot of investment into the Work module. All of your staff will have access to this, and they will see the projects and tasks assigned to the clients that you've given them access to. Right? So it's really easy. You can create a project just by clicking Create Project and put in, will be like a 1040 prep or something. You can choose the particular client, the due date that it's going to be, and then assign it to all the staff that have access to that particular client. You can even make a recurring project like bank feeds, reconciliation, and reporting. Right? You can make it recurring. Obviously, you wouldn't make it recurring for a 1040 prep, but you can do weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, or yearly, recurring projects or tasks. Basically, you're tracking the client, the name of it, the due date, and which staff it's assigned to. And you can assign subtasks, right, and assign them to different staff. So if you're doing an audit or something, you could use this to track that, and everybody would see it right on, the dashboard when they come in. And I can filter by a particular staff member or a particular client as well. When each of the staff members are in work, they can filter by just me, and then they'll see all the projects assigned to them. So now I usually toggle off the QuickBooks feed. If you turn that on, that's basically going to be payroll and transactions not yet added to the register that have come in the bank feed. We're going to look at that at the end once we get through the accountant tools that are more related for tax, okay, and cleanup tools. But we will come back because bank feed is a great way to get the data in, as I mentioned before. But I usually turn that off because it gets busy. Yes, I can put it in the list view, and I can track, my projects that are to do and in progress, over the next, 30 days or something. Or I can do a custom range the next year or do next week or whatever. And again, client, project, status, due date, who it's assigned to, right? Now the other thing that's cool, and then we'll move on into a client file. Create a client request. So and then this is going to be more pertinent for what you're doing. There's a free file share within QBOA. It's like QBOA to QBO, and your clients can upload the document to you. So, they might need like a prior, tax year 2013 for some reason or whatever. Right? You choose a particular client, the date you want them to upload it. I'll give them till Monday, and then, the status. Give your client a note or something about it because they're going to see that. And you can even add a document if you don't think they're going to know which document you're talking about. You can choose to notify the client, which they'll get an email because they might not be inside of QuickBooks Online. And you can publish to the client's QuickBooks. That's what you're going to do. And it's going to send this request for a document to their QBO file, right? So I'm in a client file just as a client in Firefox, right? There's no accountant up here, no drop down. We'll get to that in a little bit when we go to client file. But I'm in as a client. And where they see your request is under this My Accountant option in the left-hand panel, a menu option called My Accountant, right under Accounting. This is where Clay, my client, will see, the request we just sent him. They need this prior tax year form. You can click on it, and then he can click Add Document and browse out to, somewhere on his computer and upload the document. And this is going to put it right back into my QBOA. So you might already have a portal system. Great. This one's super easy because it's like they're right in the file. In My Accountant, they will see the request, and they can even ask you a question or make a comment. Hope it's the right one, right tax year, et cetera. Something silly. You know what I mean? So you can upload documents back to QBOA, and where you would see it, if we go, I'll refresh, and I'm going to filter for the type of work, which in this case would be requests. So I'm going to filter for requests, and then here's the thing. And though I'm not alerted, your client is, but we aren't yet. Right? I'm sure that's on the roadmap and other things. But anyway, there's a 1 next to the message icon, meaning they messaged me, and there's an attachment icon. So I can click on it, and I can actually see the document and download it. Right? So it's QBOA to QBO and QBO back to QBOA. Right? We're sending files back and forth to each other. You initiate it. However, your client can respond. And if you already have a portal system, just tell your client, hey, this My Accountant tab in the left-hand panel, just disregard it. There's no way to customize the left-hand panel yet, right? So, they'll just disregard it. But it's a pretty easy way to have your client upload a form or document that you need, PDF, Excel, a picture, JPEG, portable file, whatever you need. They can upload from the My Accountant tab, and they'll see the request. You initiate it, not them. But once you initiate it, they can upload you documents and ask you questions even, messaging from within QBOA to QBO. So we'll skip apps. Again, the Your Books file for the firm. One other thing, and let's dive into some accountant tools, and we're going to be using the Cloud Collaboration LLC client file. So this Add Client, if you get a new client just for tax and you just want to set up a quick bank feed for the last year and just like set up some rules and get some data in there, one way to do it, just click Add Client. You don't have to tell your client to go to QuickBooks.com or get some order form to fill out a QBO subscription or self-employed. you and whoever you allow in the firm, in the team page, if you give them the ability to do this, can click Add Client, and then just, new tax client, but you need their books, put in their email, right? You don't have to fill out any more information, and then choose one of these levels. Now, if for those of you who know QBO well, know there is another QuickBooks Online. There's QuickBooks Online Simple Start, Essentials, and Plus, right? And that's double entry accounting, et cetera. And Plus is going to have like class tracking, inventory, two-sided items, pass-through time, expense, material, and invoice, 1099s, that thing. Essentials is more core accounting. Simple Start, doesn't even have a general ledger report or a trial balance report or no accounts payable. So you're not going to have many clients in Simple Start, and I think that's why we don't really have it here. But most of your clients will be on Essentials or Plus of your small business clients. But you might have some Schedule C clients. Again, no chart of accounts. This is totally based on Schedule C categories. So you could create a self-employed just to get some data in, because there's a couple tax reports and a P&L, right? So you can create the subscription from QBOA for your client. And let's say it's an Essentials client because they don't need any of that other stuff. And I can choose, the team members that I want to have access to it. Maybe just Ray and I and Valerie will have access to this particular client, right? And even the payroll's half off. But notice, wholesale, when the firm is billed, that's one of the billing options, two billing options, wholesale and direct bill, which is a client paying for it. Wholesale is 50% off for life of the sub. Direct discount will be a promo for the first year, and then it'll go up to the retail. Essentials should be $35 a month, and retail for QBO Plus is $50. So again, if you're in the practice or you're starting to move over to this value bill type method that the industry is kind of trending that way, where you create a few service packages for your clients, though you might track hourly for like cost analysis, you're just going to charge them a monthly fee, and you can roll in the QBO subscription, then you might as well pay for it because it's going to be half off. So I just want to make sure you knew that was there, a wholesale billing model within QuickBooks Online Accountant. You create the subscriptions, whether it's self-employed, Essentials, or Plus, and you pay for it monthly, and you just have your client reimburse you or roll it in. So you create the subscription. Just wanted to let you know in case you get some new tax clients that also have some books, or you want to put them on some QuickBooks to get the data in, like through bank feeds or rules, or set up some recurring transaction templates, or opening balance journal entry, whatever. I mean, just like you're probably doing that on desktop too when you get new tax clients. So you can do the same thing in QBO, but you can put it under wholesale billing as 50% off. And then choose which staff members are actually going to work the file and get ready for tax season. All right, so that's basically QuickBooks Online Accountant. I'm going to go ahead and dive into a client file at this point. By the way, when you create a new client, you're not sure what subscription level they need. We give you a compare link. I didn't show it, but it just opens up another tab, and it, shows you the difference. Like, when would someone need QBO Plus? Now, for those clients that are new to the firm for tax, but they already have QBO, you're obviously not going to create a QuickBooks Online subscription, right? Because they already have it. So how do you get it into your QBOA? We should mention that quick. Let me go back into Firefox as my client. All right. Have them go to the gear icon, Manage Users. Now, I'll probably mention this again. Gear icon is just one of the access points with QuickBooks Online. It's where most of the tools and operational stuff is, right? So another way to get the chart of accounts, recurring transactions, your items list, all your lists, reconcile, budgeting, So there's some operational tools in here, particularly Manage Users. So this is where your client would go, and so that they can, refresh that, invite you as the accounting firm. Right? This is for clients that are new to the firm for tax or whatever, and they need to be in your QBOA, but they're not yet, because they already have a QBO. So you just go into Simple Start, Essentials, or Plus. Even self-employed has this ability. Under the gear icon, this is where you can invite the accounting firm, and you only need to invite one of you. No, I don't need to invite Ray too, or Valerie and Leah and all those people. They're coming in through my QBOA, and I'm going to choose whether they're going to have access to file or not. So we're all team members of one QBOA. We work off a consolidated list. That's the beauty of QuickBooks Online Accountant for us, right? So you don't have all these desktop files all over the server, at the firm, and you all kind of have your local copy, or you're going in through the server or something like that. But to have a consolidated list is really helpful. So you only need to invite one person from QBOA. Typically the master admin is what I always suggest. Just keep it consistent. And when you accept the invite, it'll add it to QBOA. And then, Ray and I can work off it. Right? So, okay. Now, we were just in the file. That's actually a good segue. We were just in the client file as they are, right? They just have the dashboard. Banking will be in there. You got sales and expense info, reports. We'll be looking at reports. Sales tax, payroll tax, chart of accounts reconcile. That's accounting, right? Then you got the plus sign. That's all the transactions. Journal entries here. So the spinny plus sign in the upper right. And then you have the gear icon where we were, right? Operational stuff. That's about it. 3 areas of access, 3 points of access, or entry, I should say, into stuff in QBO. And then I'll go through some key accounting settings for accountants. But when you access it from QBOA, a little different. I have this accountant toolbox, and I have a way to get back to QB accountant, as well as I have the search field here, which, by the way, if I left-click it, it brings the last 10 transactions, and I can look at all the reports. Just a quick way. You can also start typing for a report to find one if you're not sure. That search field is super helpful. Right up here next to the plus sign, which, again, would be all the transactions or one way to get to them, and then the gear icon. So same thing if you're coming in from QBOA, and then you have the same left-hand panel, right? Accounting being chart of accounts and reconcile. But I have this toolbox, which I'll get to in a second, and the drop-down. That always stays with you, so I can go in and out of client files, right? But let's talk about the toolbox. Now, TrialBalance, we'll look at that. That's going to be where you send the balances from the client QBO file to ProConnect Tax Online. And batch or classify transactions, that's a great cleanup tool. It's in QuickBooks Account Edition on the desktop too, so you probably have seen it or used it. So it's also in QBO when you're in through QBOA. When you reconcile, you can do an undo, and we'll look at that too. But what I like to do first, particularly if you're running those company financial reports, the summary reports like balance sheet, profit and loss, and it impacts the reclassified transaction tool. When you're in a client file, click on the briefcase. To the left of the name, report tools. I can set the date range, so I want to do this year to date, and I'll do accrual. You probably want to do cash, accrual basis, right? So this, when I go into reports, and there's a couple ways to get to reports. Obviously, I can click reports here, and I can go into all reports. Like this is like company financial reporting in here. I have ARAP, item-based reporting, sales expense, and sales tax. I also have accountant reports here, another bucket, where you'll find a P&L and balance sheet as well. You can also, under the briefcase, click on accountant reports. It'll bring you right in there. So I just suggest that. And then, I can go to the profit and loss, and I have this report up. Right? It's looking at this year to date and accrual basis. You can easily switch to cash quickly if you want to, as well as I can do, display columns by total only, but I could do it by quarter or something like that. And you can customize. We'll go over customization. However, let's talk about open windows and navigating within QuickBooks Online and using Chrome, but this works in Firefox as well as it's going to work in IE 11 too. Let's say something looks off to you or something, like maybe there's cash basis. I don't really see, unapplied payment, cash payment income. What is that? Negative 11,000. So typically that's when they receive payments before the invoice date. Anyway, I want to drill in on that. But let's say you've done some comparison. Like maybe you want to compare prior year, or percent of income or something like that. You kind of customize the report you want. When you drill down on that odd unapplied cash payment income, because you've probably never seen those words together in a phrase before. So it's a QBO thing. But I would lose my summary report. So before I drill in to see the detail, I can right-click on the tab that I'm on and duplicate. All the browsers do this. Right-click, duplicate. This is going to create a second tab in the same file of the same report. So now I can drill into that $11,974.20 and notice that I've just received a bunch of payments before the invoice date, and I'll probably go into these particular customer records to clean that up, or look at an AR agent report or the sales window, something like that. So that's the way you do it. And if, let's say, you had to do a journal entry, or now you wanted to go look at the sales window or a customer record, don't just click on sales because you'll lose your detail report, right? And that's the frustration. So, you don't want to hit the back button or lose where you are. So before you go, there's a couple ways. I could click left click on sales and drag it up as a tab, and it'll be its own tab. So now I have 3 tabs. You can left click on things and move them up into the browser as a tab, right? Or you can right click, duplicate. Those are really the 2 ways I like. Sure, there's also an option under the briefcase, new window. That'll do a similar thing. But Firefox just had an update, and they do it too. They do a right click, duplicate. And so that's one way to do it. So now I can drill in up with their balance there. Again, probably I received the payment before the invoice date itself. So now I can drill in and go. So now you notice I have 4 tabs open in the same file. Works with reports, works with lists. I'm sorry, works with transactions and works with lists and reports as well. So a transaction, I can go to the plus sign. Maybe I'm doing a journal entry, or maybe I'm going to the receive payment window. Let's do journal entry instead. Right-click, open a new tab, right? So you're either right-clicking duplicate on the tab you're on when you want like the register open in a bank feed, or you want a report open and a register open, or several reports, summary, detail. Or you can right-click on transactions, open a new tab. Now I have 5 tabs open in the same QBO file. Right? Now, a quick tip, the clock in the upper left, next to the transaction name, whether you're on an invoice, check, bill, whatever, you click on that, it's going to show you the last 10 transactions of a type. So I'm going to go to number 128. And notice that you can do, because QBO supports multiple AR, AP, per journal entry. Right? Not that you're doing a lot of that, but at period end tax, you might. You might not be dealing with a subledger where you're going to receive payment to apply it. You might just want to get the balance sheet correct so that you can send it over to the tax. So again, right-click, duplicate it, go to your last one by clicking the clock. Great way to get there. And then you can make adjusting, quote-unquote, adjusting journal entries to AR and AP, multiple in a journal entry, unlike desktop. Now, you're seeing the adjusting journal entry flag here, right? You can check on or off. It should be default checked when you're in through QBOA. Now, I know journal entries are adjusting by nature, so why would we have this? It seems kind of redundant. It's because there is a report. I'm going to right-click duplicate that you might be used to in QuickBooks Accountant Edition. It's actually a premier level report. So you close out. I'm going to go to reports, and then I'll go over to accountant reports. There's this adjusting journal entry report. Right? So we have a couple accountant-only reports, adjusting journal entry, and then adjusted trial balance, which is that 7-column report. It's the same in desktop, right? So adjusting journal entry, these are the journal entries that have that flag. So my journal entries I did versus someone else in the file. Right? So there's that. So I have 6 tabs open in this one file. How many tabs do you really need? I don't know, but you can do it, right? So the other thing with Chrome, and then we will look at exporting a report. Like we'll do the trial balance report, typically probably what you're using. And we'll export that to Excel so you can see. I'll show you how to customize as well. And then we'll look at batch or classify, and then the trial balance tool with the integration with ProConnect Tax Online, and finally bank feeds. About 27 minutes left, but plenty of time. All right. So Chrome, I use it for a lot of different stuff. I have this site. By the way, I'm going to put this in the chat area of GoToWebinar. You can bookmark this. There's tons of short videos on what I'm showing you today, as well as things for your clients, like training for your clients, etc. And I'm the guy right here, right between these two, right? Photoshopped in. Anyway, this Chrome I use for just work-related stuff. I have so much stuff on here, right? So I wouldn't really use this for QBO. But in Chrome, you can actually click on the person one in the upper right next to the Minimize tab, and you can click Manage People, and you can add a person. I do suggest that you add another Chrome user. That's like one of the advantages of Chrome over some of the other browsers, is the ability to add a person and just isolate your QBO work there. You just click Add Person, you name it QuickBooks Online. Don't create a shortcut desktop and then choose an icon. And anyway, so that when you're doing QBO, you're just going into this totally isolated Chrome person or user just to isolate your QBO work. The other benefit is that you can creates a brand new top icon bar, bookmarks bar, right? So, and you just want to go here and show bookmarks bar. So when I'm on any number of the transactions or lists I go to every day and I want to be one click away, just star it, save it to the bookmarks bar. I have a journal entry. No matter what file I'm in, I'll be able to be brought to journal entry. And that's it. Could work with I know that chart of accounts is over here under accounting and reconcile, but maybe reconcile is kind of buried. Yes, I think he showed it under the gear icon, which it is. So just star it and then call it bank rec. It'll bring you, no matter what file you're in, it'll bring me to the bank rec. And this also works for some accountant settings and preferences or other lists as well. So, and you can even teach your client how to create with transactions and lists, the top icon bar, the dozen they go to every day or the 10 they go to. So they're always one click away. It's like the top icon bar tip in desktop. Same kind of thing. Right? So I am going to go through some quick accountant settings, and then we'll look at reporting that impact tax and something to consider. Sure, in the company setting, and again, accountant settings is where, right? It's a preferences, the settings, a tool, it's an operation, so that's going to be under the gear icon, right? If I go back to the other tab, gear icon, accountant settings, right above manage users. Right? So I have the company type. You can choose a method. I think this one is an 1120S, quick save, right? That's going to impact it. And then go down to the advanced tab. I'm just trying to think of other things. Yes, the company has the EIN as well. Accounting, right here in the advanced tab, advanced setting accounting. First month of the fiscal year, first month of income tax year. Are they the same? What's the default accounting method? Not that reports will reflect it, but the tools will. So when we go back and do batch classify, it should go to cash basis. And the actual TrialBalance tool will also inherit this accounting method selection. And I did mention when you're done reviewing the file and you do the tax return, do set a close date. Set one, for 12/31. And you can even have them, though I had that one friend who doesn't even require a password because he's accessing the files. He's not really worried about it. And like in desktop, you set a closing date with a password. You can also do that here. You can enter a password. So close date password, also important. And I can get there from the briefcase, close books, take me to the same place. Right? This is kind of like your accountant menu here. Remember that briefcase, right next to the left of the file name. All right. Also the tax form, another place, and then account numbers. Do you enable them? Do you want to show them on reports or not? Maybe you don't. You uncheck it. And those are basically the main, accountant-related or tax-related, if you will, settings. So make sure those are set up in the way you want them, and then they'll bring you back to QBOA. Oh, real quickly, the reconcile, though we're not going through a reconciliation, wanted to mention how do you undo one because your clients cannot, but you might have to. You might have to before you prepare the return to redo it correctly because the beginning balance is way off or whatever. So you can click History by Account in the upper right, and then under the drop-down arrow, next to the monthly reconcile, so I've done through 1031. So right now I know I have to do 1130 reconciliation, and we'll do that after the webinar. Undo, right? So you can undo a bank rec if you want. Okay. The other thing is we do have, I know for audit purposes, some people like this summary report. So it's a reconciliation summary, when it was reconciled and, what account was and the statement ending date reconciled on. Some used by that. And you have history by account or reconcile. So I just want to let you know you all can undo a reconcile. And Charles has asked if this is available to view again later. Yes, I'm recording it now. And I typically have the recording to up on this site. I put it in the chat area under QBOA. If you look, actually there's one right there, right now, 48 minutes from last time, QBO tools for tax accountants. All right, you could just go ahead and watch that one, covering the same material. Thanks for that question. All right, gone through some key settings that impact accounting and tax. I mean, there's not many for that, right? Pretty simple stuff. Gone through report tools. Let's go through let's go to reporting now, then batch or classify. Then we'll go into the TrialBalance tool and bank feeds. So I wanted to tie off reporting because here in the accountant reports, right? And again, you can get there under the briefcase, accountant reports. You'll see the TrialBalance report right here. If you're not sure where it is, left click in the search field and start typing. You'll find it. I think I customized from last time we did this. Let's go to that report. So debit and credit, right? Here's the report you want. It's looking at this year on a cash basis, and I'm doing non-zero, right? Sounds relevant. You can also click Customize, and summary reports, there's not a lot of customization going on, right? You just have the general stuff, and then I have rows and columns, but basically it's just that, and then the header footer. And so that's the customization for the trial balance. Now, detail reports, just so we know, so I'm going to right-click Duplicate, and let's drill down on, say, another account off of here. Like we'll look at employee advances or something. Now we'll look at development costs. I'll drill down. There's the detail report. Detail reports, I can do a lot more for columns, a lot more customization. I can do it from a couple places. I can click Customize, right, and go down to rows and columns, change columns. It gives me all the list of columns that are available. So detail reports, like in desktop, you can add a lot more columns or filter by a lot more things in summary reports, which are basically comparing periods or filtering by an account. So that is similar in desktop. It's also the same in QBO. That's the same kind of behavior. But you can turn stuff off you don't need. I don't really need to see the split, or it's that it's adjusting. I don't want amount and balance. Maybe instead I want debit and credit. And you run the report. That's that. Now, let's say you want to save the report, whatever the report. It might be a transaction detail by account report or what have you. You can save your customizations, right? Name the report. You can add it to a group if you want to set it for auto send. We're not really going through that today, but you have the ability to auto send reports out of QBO to people that aren't accessing the file. That's from your memorized report list. I'll show you that. We call it My Custom Reports. And then you can share it with firm only. That's what I like. You might just create some reports that, like, Ray's going to come in later and I just want her to see a report, but I don't want the client to see it. That's all part of that. Excuse me. So on the trial balance, let's say we have it the way you want it. If I go back to the report list, my custom reports is your memorized report list, right? So I have the trial balance saved, or I've added reports to groups, and then I can create the group to be scheduled to auto send, right? But once you have the report the way you want it, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, there it is. Here in this little candy bar strip, right, we got send by email, print, go to Excel or a PDF, depending. I think most tax softwares, if there's not a direct integration, meaning you're using something other than ProConnect Tax Online, you're going to go to Excel. And then you have a way to impact other columns. But remember, on summary reports, there's not a lot of customization going on. Right? So I'm going to click Excel, and that's going to create my trial balance in Excel. Maybe you use a balance sheet in P&L, but I think a lot of people use trial balance for tax. So I have my report in Excel right now. Right? And then I can go import it into the Cert Trial Balance utility. I think Pro Series even has an import functionality from Excel, right, for balances. But I just want to make sure you knew how you can customize as well as export a report out. Pretty simple, right? But make sure you save it for next year, next quarter, whatever. So you don't have to reinvent it, because your My Custom Report list, that's going to be your list of reports that you've created and shared or just created for yourself later on. Right? But remember, you can have firm-only viewing, so you can hide a report from your client. You're even in their file, even from the master admin, which isn't you. You don't need to be the master admin. And accountant reports is where you're going to find your GL and trial balance, as well as another way to get to the balance sheet and P&L. Okay? Lastly, when you go to all reports, the business overview, that's like company financial and desktop. Okay? All right, so that's pretty much reporting. The other tool that will help with reporting and finding stuff, as well as correctly coding miscoded transactions, you'll find under the gear icon. I mentioned it before, sorry, the briefcase icon, the accountant toolbox, to the left of the client name, reclassify transactions. So it does inherit. This is this year to date and accrual, right? I guess that one setting is really just for the trial balance tool. We'll get in there soon. So let's see here. And then if I scroll down, you're going to see stuff. See, I have some things in uncategorized expense through this year. Right? This allows me to batch move these to the appropriate account, batch categorize to the appropriate account, so I could go to the right expense. This is Comcast, so it's probably going to telephone or internet or utilities, right? So I can move these all over to utilities in one fell swoop. So that's kind of what this tool is designed for, is to reclassify miscoded transactions in a batch. Should help you with cleaning up when they write checks or bills or whatever to the wrong account. The other benefit of this tool is, since we're looking at this year, or maybe on a cash basis, I can look into each account and see what type of transactions there are. You know, there's a deposit in this one. I have an unapplied cash payment, so I can kind of bird's eye the account for troubleshooting for errors or what have you. Also works with balance sheet accounts, so I could go into, say, prepaids and make sure it's just journal entries, or a fixed asset account to make sure it's just journal entries or something like that, or maybe what's an undeposited funds. So a benefit is to bird's eye accounts using the batch classify and obviously what it was intended or designed for to properly code miscoded transactions in a batch. Right? The other tool that we're going to want to look at is the TrialBalance. So let's look at this. We'll send some data over to ProConnect Tax Online. Excuse me. And then we will come back and look at bank feeds. Okay? So TrialBalance, it's looking at, I mean, it's really, this is an annual time you would come into this tool. I think one thing I would love to see with this tool is, though it says tax year 17, or I can look at 16, 15, or 14, but an option to change the date range to like a quarter or monthly review. Because this really is, this isn't the TrialBalance report, it's a working TrialBalance center, right? I have every account that will have a balance in either 16 or 17, because it's comparing. Last year I did the return to, you know, same file, and then this year, the unadjusted balance. The ending balance, which these went to Lacert, these went to ProConnect Tax Online, these went to ProSeries, whatever. Unadjusted balance, haven't adjusted them yet, haven't looked at them yet. And as you're going through and checking out the accounts, you can go ahead and check these off and mark them complete. So it is kind of like a working TrialBalance center, if you will, as I mentioned. I can also see the adjusting entries that have been made, or I can make an adjusting journal entry just by clicking the plus sign. So another way to open a journal entry from here. You can do that here. You can also do it under the briefcase journal entry, or you can do plus sign journal entry. Those are the three ways I know to get to a journal entry in QBOA. And then the adjusted balance, any work papers or attachments that you might have. Like it's typical that you might add the December statement to the checking account, you know, something like that. So you could do that. I have that attached, bank feed. So you can attach documents here. I can write notes for me and my staff to see. And then I can also see, you know, transactions that have been entered into the file since I started the working TrialBalance. You know, I think I started this, I guess today. And it goes all the way down, right? Accounts that will have balances for either 16 or 17. 2017 activity, over, under, the same, etc. So those are the columns that are available as you're going through. Now, you can freeze the workspace if you want. This will not prevent people from entering data into QBOA. It just freezes the workspace. You can archive to zip, and you can print it out if you want, or go to Excel. And there's some columns you can turn on or off. If you don't do notes and attachments, or you don't do notes, and take that column away. Right? So, and I might get rid of the attachment one too. There we go. So I'll have just, you know, these columns available, working TrialBalance, and if you are going to be sending the balances to ProConnect Tax Online, so you're integrating, that's the only one that has a direct integration, the tax software. It's ours, Intuit ProConnect Tax Online. You can find out about it at proconnecttaxonline.com, or just Google PTO or Intuit, or well, there's many ways to find it. Obviously from QBOA you can find it too, under the briefcase at the very bottom, ProConnect Tax Online. It just opens up the software. And I'm logged into QBOA. When I send it to PTO, you know, I'm logged in using the same email to get there, and that always makes things easier too. When you're done reviewing this, before we look at tax mappings, you can update the unadjusted balance. So all entries under the other transaction column will be cleared and reflected under the unadjusted balance. Right? So I'm going to click update. I should have nothing under other transactions once it's done. And then we will look at tax mappings. So if you are going to PTO, this is the only time that you would use this tab then. You're going to go ahead and we're going to try to map based on, you know, whatever we have going on in the program or the coding, but you can always choose a different account. If you think vendor refunds should go somewhere else, click edit tax line and move it to somewhere else. These should be 1120S fields, right? Appropriately. Schedule L, Schedule M1, 1125A. So going in. So that's and I see all the different accounts that are mapped to the appropriate tax line all the way down for the balances. Once that's done, then you can click View Tax Return in the upper right. That is going to send the balances over to ProConnect Tax Online. So when I click View Tax Return, I'll create a new one, or I can update an existing one because I already did one last week when we did this, but I'm going to create a new one. Click Continue. And it's going to open up ProConnect Tax Online in a pop-up block. Sorry about that. That was me. Done. Try it again. View Tax Return. Continue. It's going to open up in another tab and put me into ProConnect Tax Online. It's going to start the return, add in the company info, update account balances. So it's the only kind of direct integration. This is an online office approach, right? I'm in the client QBO file from QBOA, or a staff member is, because we're all working off the same list. And I've chosen what clients I want them to work on. And so the tax staff can do their journal entry adjustments. They can use some of those other tools I showed and clean up the file. And from the trial balance tool, the working trial balance page, they can go ahead and send the balances over to ProConnect Tax Online. So here's my 1120S with the appropriate balances, right? And now I'm in review mode. I'm not really entering data. The data came over already for me. Now, there's 4 pieces to the PTO puzzle. There's other than Intuit Link, which is a very robust, file share portal with your clients. Lacerte, ProSeries, and PTO all support it. So, but anyways, I have the profile. This is the company profile or the client profile, input return, check return, file return. 4 main sections. There's even an e-file dashboard, right? If I click on input return, just to show you, and I can go ahead and click on input return, and, here are the available fields: general info, shareholder info, payments, penalties, extensions, ordinary income, Schedule K, etc., going all the way down. And I can click in use to see, where is the data. It's mostly in income, COGS, and deductions. I got some M1 stuff going on too. And so the balances came over. Gross receipt sales, that's not bad. Purchases, P&L should be pretty good. And then I have balance sheet as well. So, and these are all the different fields. You can go to the different ones as well, etc. But it's going to come over to the check return tab. And the nice thing, because we're using the same tax engine as Lacerte, it has the same diagnostics. So if you click on critical diagnostics, you can see the 28 errors I have. They're all red. So I'm going to clear them and resolve them before I actually file the return. But I'm missing a lot of just like basic info that you'd have in your client file. So anyway. So that's the integration with ProConnect Tax Online. It'll open up in another tab. I'm using the same email. And you're sending the balances by clicking View Tax Return. Although I could always just click the briefcase and go to PTO just to open up PTO anyway in a separate tab. But that's direct integration there. For those of you that have Lacerte or ProSeries and you're just trying out PTO or whatever, it's the first time you've heard about it, remember when you have your report, you can export the trial balance or whatever other report to Excel, right? Or, to import into another software, tax software. Right? So I know Lacerte has an import from Excel. I think ProSeries, not for certain. All right. Lastly, let's go over a quick overview and open up the floor for any kind of questions. We've gone through QBOA and your team involvement and kind of the task management file share ability using QBOA in the work. Navigation, tips and tricks, multiple tabs, right, or creating a top icon bar. And then accountant tools, report tools, batch or classify, adjusting journal entries, the trial balance tool. We sent it over to ProConnect Tax Online, went through reporting as well. Remember, just in case, I don't think I showed it, or I might have just done it too quickly. When you're in accountant reports and you go to the trial balance report, you can quickly change the basis right in the top. This is set to accrual, cash. That's what I might want to send over to Excel. Or these might be the balances that will go over to PTO, from the trial balance area. But a great way to get data in is if you go to banking. When you set up your client file, you're going to go ahead and set up the connection to their credit card and connection to the bank. And we're looking at, let's look at the checking account. I have 49 transactions in this. So within each card, we're looking at the company checking for review. have not been added yet to the register. These are quote-unquote unaccepted transactions that you see on the dashboard in QBOA. That's the language we're using for that. Notice I have this Apple link, so it sees Applebee's, right? Now, yes, I'll go over rules in a second, but a lot of stuff's going to be black first, and QBO has never seen it before. The first couple times you work with the feed, as you're seeing the purchasing habits, you're going to start to choose the appropriate account. So this is Applebee's, came in from the bank detail. It's actually not Apple, it's the restaurant, and this would be, local meals or meals and entertainment or something, right? That would correlate to some tax field. Notice that QBO is going to remember that from now on, right? If I click add, it's going to put it in the register. It's not yet in the register, but it's going to remember it. But if you see anything else from Applebee's, right, I have it, it's going to remember and turn it green. It's going to start to recognize. Green is recognizing. So it recognizes Applebee's. It recognizes another Applebee's. It recognizes rules that I've applied. You can create bank rules to make sure it's categorized correctly, because the goal, particularly when you set up like a new client, you're just trying to get the data in from the year, the last 6 months, is to recognize stuff and then check the box off and batch accept. This puts it in the register. Now you'll notice you have add. Most of mine are ads. They've not yet been in the register because I prefer, instead of my client entering the purchase data like through the plus sign, which they can, or the expense window or whatever. Sorry, here, purchasing. Right? Unless it's a bill, sure, but most of the stuff, I just tell them to wait for the feed. They're connected to the checking account and the credit card. Why not just wait a couple days? So the other thing we'll do, though, is if they do enter a transaction, or in this case, this one came in from the phone app with the receipt attached, I don't want to duplicate it. So this download, it found a similar record, so it gives me the ability to match it, so it's not duplicated in the register. This prevents mistakes and a lot of mushroomed expense when really it's just duplicate expense entries. So look for the match. There's two actions that are going to happen: add or match. Right, and matches so we don't duplicate something that's already in the register. But we want to get stuff recognized. Like Bake Accounting, it's an outside consultant, so I just happen to create a rule for them. And rules are really easy as you're looking at the purchasing habit of your client. You create a rule for money out for any of the following criteria or conditions. You don't have to go rule crazy, right? Because as you see, when I chose Applebee's there, QBO is going to start to turn things green anyway as you work the transaction types that are coming in the feed. But sometimes you might want to create a rule because there's multiple of the same vendor in a city. You're trying to create some umbrella alias because the bank detail comes in all hourly and stuff, and it's weird. Or you want to do a rule by an amount. Like say you're purchasing from like Lowe's or Home Depot, and if the amount is greater than $500, right, it's going to go to a fixed asset or other current asset instead of expense or COGS, right? So when there's a little more complexity required in how you want QBO to work this transaction, what account, what category, what class, that's when you create a rule. The other reason to create a rule is also to automatically add to the books. Once the rule's applied, and it fits this criteria, it's going to create this expense, and it's going to then put it in the register for me. So that's more automation of data entry. I usually leave it unchecked, because I want to review it. But the default is unchecked, so don't worry. But that's really rules are super helpful for. A little more sophistication required, or auto entry. But the goal is to get stuff recognized. On the Amex card, I got 24 things out of 39 recognized. It's cost of goods sold. I got some supplies. Like Amazon's a good rule one because sometimes it's not always supplies, it's other accounts. So I might create several rules for Amazon based on amount too. We're going to find matches, right? And it'll match to stuff coming in from the phone app or the tablet or whatever they're using, right? And bank fees is just a great way to get the data in. You can automate it or come in and review it. And these are unaccepted transactions. It's very similar to what you're seeing. If I go back to QBOA, and then we'll bring up the PowerPoint with the resource slide, and I'll look at questions because we've got about a minute left. But the unaccepted transactions, right? And I usually sort this bookkeeping column just to see. So I got to start working Katie's company because it's got 160. These are I wouldn't do a return until these are all accepted, right, or matched. So this is unaccepted transactions. That is the credit card or bank feed. You want to look for that. You want to see changes to reconcile. You want to see checks without pay. You want to see those other things you have to clean up before you obviously go into the TrialBalance tool and send it over to ProConnect Tax or export that TrialBalance out to Excel. So I'm going to stop the recording at this point.